Star Trek, 1966 to 1969, broke new ground with its visionary storytelling, memorable characters, and hopeful vision of the future. The original series introduced audiences to a diverse and dynamic crew aboard the USS Enterprise, whose adventures captured imaginations worldwide. However, behind the iconic roles and futuristic adventures, many of the actors who helped define this legendary series have sadly passed away. In this video, we take a heartfelt look back at the original Star Trek cast members who are no longer with us. Join us as we remember and celebrate the stars who boldly went before us and whose memories continue to live on among fans everywhere. Leonard Nimoy was born on March 26, 1931, and portrayed the iconic role of Mr. Spock in 1966 at age 35. Spock's cold logic, conflicted half-human emotions, and unwavering discipline made him unforgettable. But Nimoy's real life was haunted by demons rarely discussed. Despite public admiration, he resented being trapped in Spock's shadow, which eroded his self-worth. His acting ambitions collapsed post-Trek, leading to depression and a hidden battle with alcoholism in the late 70s. His first marriage fell apart after 33 years, partly due to his emotional unavailability and frequent absences. His relationship with his children, especially son Adam, was fraught with distance and unresolved resentment. Professionally, Nimoy's conflicts with William Shatner were more than petty squabbles. Nimoy once cut off contact for years, accusing Shatner of arrogance and sabotage. He also struggled with authority on set and was known for controlling tendencies, including manipulating scripts to favor Spock. Nimoy died on February 27, 2015 at 83, from complications related to COPD, a disease tied to his decades of smoking. Nichelle Nicholls was born on December 28, 1932, and played Lieutenant Uhura in 1966 at age 34. Uhura shattered racial boundaries with dignity and grace, but Nicholls' real-life saga was far stormier. While admired publicly, she endured a chaotic private life, including multiple tumultuous relationships, one with a married man that ended in betrayal and emotional collapse. Her only son, Kyle Johnson, later fought for control of her estate, sparking a bitter court battle in her declining years. Nicholls accused former managers of isolating her and misusing her finances, raising alarming concerns of elder abuse. In the 60s, she had an intense affair with Gene Roddenberry, Star Trek's creator, even while he was involved with Mel Barrett. The affair, though hidden from public view for years, caused strain among the cast. Nicholls also claimed that powerful Hollywood figures blacklisted her after she refused sexual advances early in her career. Her final years were marked by dementia and bitter family conflict. She died on July 30, 2022, of heart failure, at the age of 89. DeForest Kelly was born on January 20, 1920, and became Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy in 1966 at age 46. While McCoy was beloved for his heart and wit, Kelly's own life was tinged with quiet tragedy. Though seen as the soul of the Enterprise, Kelly lived with deep bitterness toward Hollywood. After Star Trek, his career collapsed. He was so typecast that scripts stopped coming. He fell into depression and financial worry, relying on Trek conventions to stay afloat. His marriage to Carolyn Dowling, though long-lasting, was marked by years of emotional distance, exacerbated by his inability to provide children she longed for. Kelly often confided to friends that he felt invisible compared to the fame of Nimoy or Shatner, which quietly ate at him. He kept a dark secret. In the early 50s, he was briefly investigated for inappropriate behavior on a low-budget film set. Though no charges were filed, the experience isolated him professionally for years. He died on June 11, 1999, from stomach cancer. He was 79. James Doohan was born on March 3, 1920, and embodied Chief Engineer Scotty beginning in 1966 at age 46. On screen, he was the loyal miracle worker, but off-screen, Doohan's life was steeped in pain and excess. A World War II hero who lost a finger in combat, he later lost himself in alcohol. For decades, he was a heavy drinker, often showing up to fan events slurring his words or needing handlers to get him through. His marriage to his first wife collapsed under the weight of his temper and infidelity. His children from different relationships were estranged from him at various points due to his mood swings and unpredictable behavior. Behind the scenes of Star Trek, he grew to despise William Shatner, often mocking him in interviews and accusing him of hogging screen time. He had screaming matches with producers over what he felt was underappreciation. Despite these battles, he remained beloved by fans. Doohan died on July 20, 2005 at 85, from pneumonia and complications of Alzheimer's disease. Grace Lee Whitney was born on April 1, 1930, and played Yeoman Janice Rand in 1966 at age 36. On screen, Rand exuded composed elegance and unspoken longing, but behind the scenes, Whitney's world unraveled in silence. Her career was derailed abruptly, fired from Star Trek without warning. She later revealed she had been sexually assaulted by a television executive on the show. This trauma plunged her into decades of addiction, homelessness, and obscurity. Once a rising star, she spiraled into alcoholism and pill abuse, even panhandling on Hollywood Boulevard. Her marriage crumbled, her sons distanced themselves, and she attempted suicide multiple times. Her return to the Star Trek films felt like redemption, but it masked deeper wounds. Whitney became a recovery advocate, but the industry never fully welcomed her back. She died on May 1, 2015, at 85 of natural causes, years after confessing the franchise's brightest ship had left her behind in darkness. Eddie Pasi was born on August 20, 1939, and took on the minor but memorable role of Lieutenant Leslie starting in 1966, when he was just 27. Though always in the background, his presence became a subtle staple of the bridge crew. But behind the scenes, Pasi lived in pain, literally. He quietly battled debilitating migraines and chronic back issues caused by the studio's harsh lighting, which eventually forced him to quit the show. What few know is that his exit was also tied to growing frustration. He felt underpaid, ignored, and used as a silent filler while others rose to fame. He resented the lack of screen credit and once considered suing over unfulfilled promises of promotion. After Star Trek, his acting career disintegrated. By the mid-1970s, he was broke and embarrassed to be recognized only as that guy in the background. He disappeared from Hollywood and ran a car detailing business, but never fully recovered from the disappointment. Pasi died on August 17, 2021, of natural causes, just 3 days shy of his 82nd birthday. Mel Barrett was born on February 23, 1932, and stepped into Star Trek as Nurse Christine Chapel in 1966 at the age of 34. While her character was nurturing and soft-spoken, Barrett's real-life persona was far more formidable and controversial. Her affair with Gene Roddenberry began while he was still married, and their marriage later became a source of gossip and resentment. Cast members privately accused her of manipulating Roddenberry's decisions, leading to her multiple roles across Trek properties despite lacking fan support. She was seen by some as the ultimate insider, using her proximity to power to secure screen time. Whispers of behind-the-scenes favoritism and her rumored role in blocking other actresses from major parts followed her for years. Barrett reportedly had tense relations with Nicholls and others who resented her influence. Her marriage to Roddenberry, though enduring, was not without its scandals. Open relationship rumors swirled, and their son Eugene was reportedly kept at a distance emotionally. Barrett died from leukemia on December 18, 2008, aged 76. Vic Perin, born April 26, 1916, voiced otherworldly characters like the Metronin Arena and the menacing Nomad, joining Star Trek in 1966 at age 50. Known for his eerie, godlike voice, Perin shaped the sound of sci-fi villainy. Yet the man behind the mic lived a double life. While respected as the voice of the Outer Limits control voice, Perin was infamously secretive and reportedly combative during studio sessions. He often clashed with directors over interpretation and was known for storming out of recording booths if his creative input was questioned. His marriages were tumultuous, one ended amid claims of emotional cruelty, and his estranged daughter later described him as brilliant but unreachable. Deeply controlling, Perin refused to appear on camera in later years, believing his face diminished the illusion. He suffered years of undiagnosed depression and isolated himself. Vic Perin died in Los Angeles on July 4, 1989, aged 73, of undisclosed causes, his legacy shadowed by loneliness and detachment. Malachi Throne, born December 1, 1928, stepped into Star Trek in 1966 at age 38, exuding command as Commodore Mendez. But Throne's pride often clashed with his peers. He infamously turned down the role of Dr. McCoy, believing he deserved top billing. Known for his booming voice and theatrical ego, Throne resented Leonard Nimoy's rise and frequently badmouthed him at conventions. Rumors swirled of backstage shouting matches and a diva-like refusal to accept supporting roles. In theater circles, his arrogance became legend, once demanding that producers rewrite scenes to highlight his character. His marriage was plagued by infidelity, and his son later described their relationship as intellectually rich but emotionally distant. Diagnosed with lung cancer, Throne reportedly refused treatment for months, insisting he could beat it on stage. He died on March 13, 2013, aged 84, consumed by the very silence he once commanded with his voice. Skip Homerir was born on October 5, 1930, and played the chilling Nazi-like Melikon in 1968's Patterns of Force at the age of 38. The character was cold, ideological, and hauntingly reminiscent of real-world dictators, making him one of the most controversial villains in Star Trek's original run. Despite early fame as a child actor, Homerir's career took a sharp, unsettling turn. Cast often as disturbed or malevolent figures, he became pigeonholed into roles that mirrored his character's darkness. After his heyday, Homerir's star dimmed dramatically. Rumors circulated about his clashes with directors over his erratic behavior and deep dissatisfaction with Hollywood's typecasting. His personal life was marked by a string of failed business ventures and reclusive tendencies. While no major scandals ever made headlines, whispers of a strained marriage and a distant relationship with his children lingered. He reportedly battled chronic back pain and depression in his final decades, leading to an isolated retirement. Skip Homerir died from complications of spinal myelopathy on June 25, 2017, at the age of 86. Morgan Woodward, born September 16, 1925, was 41 when he portrayed the fanatical Captain Ron Tracy in Star Trek, 1966. The role of a desperate officer crossing ethical lines fit all too well. In real life, Woodward's icy glare and booming voice were tools of survival in a business that often rejected him for being too intense. Beneath his disciplined exterior was a man haunted by wartime trauma and a ferocious temper. Woodward struggled with undiagnosed PTSD from World War II and Korea, which he self-medicated with bourbon and bar fights well into the 70s. Though he cultivated an image of quiet dignity, he was known to berate young actors on set, and one assistant director accused him of physical intimidation during a heated argument. His love life was a carousel of one-night stands and failed engagements. He never married, and former partners described him as emotionally unavailable and controlling. Despite a long career, he never landed the lead roles he craved. He was diagnosed with cancer in the late 2010s and died on February 22, 2019, at age 93. Lawrence Montaigne, born February 26, 1931, portrayed both the calculating Romulan officer Decius and the quietly seething Vulcan rival Stan, beginning in 1966 at age 35. His characters were stoic, cold, and alien, traits Montaigne mirrored a little too convincingly offset. Behind the scenes, he was known for his competitive streak and frequent on-set feuds, especially when passed over for the role of Spock, which reportedly left him bitter for years. Though later celebrated as a writer and educator, his career faltered in the 1970s when a botched business venture, an acting school that folded under legal threats, cast a shadow over his clean image. There were also persistent, if unproven, rumors that he had been quietly blacklisted for refusing to adhere to studio demands during the Red Scare echoes of the era. His personal life was oddly secretive, friends described him as guarded, and former colleagues hinted at unresolved conflicts with his children. Montaigne died in Henderson, Nevada, on March 17, 2017, aged 86, leaving behind more questions than answers. Stuart Moss, born November 27, 1937, appeared in 2 Star Trek roles beginning in 1966 at age 29, most memorably as Lieutenant Tourmalin, a character who wrestled with existential dread and suicidal impulses. Moss's own life eerily paralleled his character's unraveling. Despite his Yale training, his Hollywood journey was marred by near misses and industry snubs. Known for being intellectually intense and overly critical, Moss alienated many directors with his insistence on rewriting dialogue and challenging direction, which quietly shut him out of larger roles. His marriage to actress Marianne McAndrew was rumored to have suffered under the strain of his ego and long absences. The couple never had children, and friends spoke of his growing bitterness and withdrawal in later years. Though he found some success in writing, his screenplays were largely rejected, and he turned to low-budget theater, where tensions with cast members often boiled over. His passion for photography turned obsessive. He would disappear for weeks on strange solo expeditions. Stuart Moss died of a heart attack on September 13, 2017, aged 79. Ian Wolfe was born on November 4, 1896, and brought to life the peculiar Mr. Atos in 1968 at the age of 72. On screen, Atos was cryptic, intelligent, and subtly unnerving, a perfect extension of Wolfe's own eccentric presence. Wolfe's real life was a strange tapestry. Though respected as a character actor in over 300 roles, many in Hollywood whispered about his obsession with esoteric spirituality and his increasingly erratic behavior in his later years. A World War I medical volunteer turned actor, he lived through decades of transformation but was often seen muttering to himself on set, reportedly believing he could channel spirits to enhance his performances. Though married, Wolfe's relationship with his family was distant, his children largely estranged. Some close to him claimed he refused medical care late in life, convinced alternative rituals would sustain him. Despite his long-standing career, Wolfe never received major industry recognition, fueling a deep resentment toward younger, more decorated actors. He died of natural causes on January 23, 1992, aged 95. Bruce Hyde, born September 14, 1941, was just 25 when he lit up screens as Lieutenant Kevin Riley in 1966, the enthusiastic officer who momentarily commandeers the Enterprise with Irish ballads and a touch of madness. Yet, that same manic energy haunted Hyde off-camera. Despite the fan affection, he was quietly dropped after 2 episodes, with rumors of erratic behavior and backstage tensions. Though he later transitioned into academia, earning a PhD, there were murmurs that his abrupt departure from acting stemmed from a nervous breakdown following multiple career rejections. His personal life was quiet but lonely. While he was married, colleagues noted that he often buried himself in work, rarely speaking of his spouse or family. Some students at St. Cloud State University described his lectures as brilliant but uncomfortably intense, marked by sudden mood swings and cryptic tangents about his past failures. Though never involved in public scandal, Hyde reportedly struggled privately with alcoholism during the 1980s before sobering up. He died from throat cancer on October 13, 2015, aged 74. Elizabeth Rogers, born May 18, 1934, played Lieutenant Palmer in Star Trek in 1967 at the age of 33. Her character was calm and professional, a cool counterbalance to the ship's chaotic crises. But off-camera, Rogers' poised demeanor masked a far more troubled life. Though Hollywood saw her as a passing face, often mistaken for Helen Hunt, her career floundered after Star Trek. She battled career stagnation and was quietly blacklisted for allegedly rejecting unwanted advances from a well-known producer, a detail never confirmed but whispered among insiders. Her private life was marked by loneliness. A failed engagement in the late 60s reportedly ended after her fiancé was arrested for fraud. Rogers never married and grew increasingly reclusive, surviving on residuals and sporadic voice work. In her final decade, she became addicted to prescription painkillers following a back injury, a dependence she had even from close friends. She died on November 6, 2004, aged 70, from multiple strokes and lung cancer, alone in a modest apartment in Los Angeles. Richard Durr was born June 15, 1917, and played Admiral Fitzgerald in a 1967 Star Trek episode at age 50. His stern, commanding presence was a natural fit, but it belied the stormy undercurrents of his life. Durr's breakthrough in When Worlds Collide, 1951, never truly propelled him to stardom, and resentment toward the Hollywood system festered quietly. A closeted gay man during an unforgiving era, Durr lived a life of suppression and secrecy. He carried on a decades-long relationship with a partner kept hidden from public view, while crafting a public image as the cultured bachelor. The strain led to heavy drinking and reported bouts of depression in the 1960s. He allegedly clashed with directors, including a now-lost recording where he accused a studio executive of blackballing him over his private life. Though a member of the actor's studio, he gradually withdrew from screen work, retreating into theater and occasional guest spots. Richard Durr died of heart failure on May 8, 1992, aged 74, his legacy buried beneath decades of discretion and personal sacrifice. Byron Morrow, born September 8, 1911, portrayed Admiral Comac in Star Trek, 1967, at age 56. His character exuded command and discipline, echoing the kind of roles he was typecast into: judges, generals, and men of authority. But in real life, Morrow bristled at this box. His early days in vaudeville and radio painted him as a comic, but a harsh fallout with a major radio sponsor, rumored to involve an on-air political rant, killed that path. Later, he struggled to escape the rigidity of his typecasting, leading to bitter resentment. He was known among peers for his perfectionism bordering on arrogance, often berating younger actors during rehearsals. Privately, he was haunted by an estranged relationship with his only son, a painter who refused contact after a violent argument in the 70s. Friends claim Morrow never recovered from that emotional fracture. He died on May 11, 2006, at age 94, of natural causes, reportedly alone, his son absent from the funeral. Morgan Farley, born October 3, 1898, appeared in Star Trek in 1967 at age 69 as Hackham and later as a young scholar. His characters were introspective and moralistic, echoes of his own philosophical leanings. Farley had a long and respected career, but behind the curtain, his life was a quiet act of defiance. As one of the few openly gay actors in the conservative mid-century entertainment world, Farley faced covert discrimination. Roles dried up in the 50s when he refused to enter a lavender marriage with a female star. Despite his talent, he was blackballed by some studios and forced into low-paying theater work. He had a long-term partner, a playwright, who died of AIDS-related complications in the early 80s, a fact Farley never spoke publicly about. He spent his later years quietly advocating for gay rights, long before it was safe to do so. He died on October 11, 1988, aged 90, of natural causes, but many believe Hollywood killed his prime decades earlier. Booker Bradshaw, born May 21, 1940, stepped into Star Trek as Dr. Mbenga in 1968 at just 28. On screen, he was composed and intellectual, embodying wisdom beyond his years. But his real life was far more erratic. Despite a sterling academic resume, Harvard, Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, Bradshaw's life was riddled with contradictions. He craved creative freedom yet resented the racial typecasting of the industry. Behind the scenes, he battled depression and used alcohol to mask frustration over Hollywood's limitations for black actors. He had 2 failed marriages, both of which ended amid accusations of infidelity and emotional volatility. His daughter reportedly refused to speak to him for over a decade. Though he later found some peace in writing, his career never reached the promise his education had foretold. A fatal heart attack ended his story on April 1, 2003, at 62, leaving behind the unfinished script of a man never quite allowed to tell his full story. Michael Zazzlo, born November 1, 1942, was just 24 when he played crewman Darnell in The Man Trap, 1966, the first to die on screen in the original Star Trek. His character was impulsive, and Zazzlo's career often mirrored that same recklessness. While he later found acclaim in soaps like Guiding Light, behind the scenes he was known for sharp mood swings and a perfectionism that bordered on cruelty. Co-stars whispered of his backstage tantrums and cold silence toward crew he deemed amateurs. His first marriage collapsed under pressure, with tabloid rumors hinting at affairs with fellow soap actors. Despite the bitterness, Zazzlo found redemption in his raw, emotional portrayal of ALS after his diagnosis. Still, some critics suggested his late-life vulnerability was at odds with his earlier arrogance. He died on December 6, 1998, aged 56, from complications of ALS, his final years offering a tragic epilogue to a life lived at extremes. Gene Dinarkski, born September 13, 1933, made his Star Trek debut in 1966 as Ben Childress at age 33. His characters were explosive, rough-edged, and prone to confrontation, traits not far removed from the actor himself. Dinarkski had a reputation in the industry as brilliant but volatile. He once stormed off a set over a minor script change, locking himself in his trailer for 2 days. His short temper cost him roles in major productions, including a key supporting part in Jaws. He opened a theater in LA hoping to rebuild his image, but his abrasive nature alienated collaborators. He never married, and rumors swirled about his intense, short-lived affairs with both male and female actors, none of which he publicly acknowledged. In later years, he grew bitter, reportedly blaming cowards in suits for sidelining his career. Dinarkski died on February 27, 2020, at 86, from complications following heart failure, largely forgotten by the Hollywood machine he once raged against. Who's your favorite character in Star Trek? How do you feel knowing that the actors have passed away? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss future videos. Thank you so much.